In this video, we're going to go over how to structure an offer, and we're going to be covering some of these items in much greater detail in a subsequent video, but this is kind of the 30,000 foot overview of things to consider. So really, starting with the escrow period, this is something that I, as your agent or somebody on our team, will work with your lender to determine, hey, what is realistically the window of time, the shortest window of time that you need in order to fully close this loan out or this purchase out. And so we go, as I mentioned in a previous video, we've seen anything as short as 15 days with the financed offer to 30 days. We rarely go beyond 30 days, but on average, we're seeing about a 21-day escrow period, meaning that from when they accept the offer until when you get keys, it's about a 21-day period. And so from there, and again, we'll coordinate that with your lender regarding what that time frame needs to be. And depending on how competitive we have to be, if there's other offers that are slightly more competitive but a shorter escrow would be helpful, we'll kind of take that into consideration as well. Know that that is a projected, that's an estimated time frame. So inevitably, there's things that come up that push things a little bit further out. It's my job, or whatever agent you're working with on our team, it's their job to be in constant communication with the listing agent so that we're getting ahead of any potential delays. I rarely have found it an issue. Most people are very understanding of any kind of reasonable delays. And so that's going to be something that we're going to be proactively working on your behalf. So know that even if we say 21, it may end up being 25. And that's not a problem. That's pretty typical. From there, the next item on the contract is going to be the price, right? And so in the previous or another video, you would have seen that we're going to provide a comparative market analysis where we're going to take a look at what comparable homes sold for in the area around you to kind of establish a base or really a range of what we feel confident the home is going to appraise in, because that'll set a ceiling for your loan. And we'll discuss that in more detail in a future video. So price will be the next piece. From there, it's fairly standard in Sacramento that the earnest money deposit, or EMD, amounts to 1% of the offer price. So if you're offering 450, your earnest money deposit is going to be 4,500. If you're offering 350, it's going to be 3,500. The earnest money deposit is essentially your skin in the game, your commitment to buying this home, right? And so it's just putting some of that funds towards the purchase that helps the seller feel confident, like, okay, it's a legit offer. That earnest money deposit needs to be provided to the title company within 3 days of an accepted offer. What will happen is once we get an accepted offer, the listing agent will send a whole packet over to the title company. The title company will reach out to us. We'll send them your contact information, and they'll reach out directly to provide you with the wiring instructions. And so you have the options to wire it, which is the most time efficient option to do it. And so I encourage you to kind of talk to your bank to determine what that process looks like and what the timelines are on it. Sometimes they can do same day, sometimes it's next day, sometimes it's 3 days. And so you kind of want to figure that out. You can also write like a money order or cashier's check that you physically drop off. I wouldn't encourage mailing it unless you're out of town or just absolutely can't do it via wire. And on rare occasions, we can also do it via personal check, but that's an absolute last option. For the earnest money deposit. On occasion, you will have sellers that will want a higher earnest money deposit. It changes nothing for you because at the end of the day, it gets applied towards your closing costs or your down payment. And so those funds are kind of just held in there, and at the end, they just get applied towards your, like I said, your down payment or closing costs. So if we're just getting into contract on an offer where our earnest money deposit based on our offer price would have been 4,559. Sorry, 4,000 was rounded up to 4,600. So 4,600 would have been our earnest money deposit, but their listing agent was not from the area, and so they asked us to up our earnest money deposit to 7,000. Fortunately, my clients, that's not an issue for my clients, and so we just we conceded on that, right? Because at the end of the day, that's money that's going to be applied towards their down payment and closing costs. So it just means that at the end of it, they'll have to bring a little bit less money because they've already put a little bit more upfront towards the closing. So that's the earnest money deposit. From there, we have the contingencies. This is an area that we're going to go into much greater detail in another video because there's a lot to cover in these. But for now, know that the contingencies that we have, we're going to be essentially kind of telling them how long of a period we will need to review the documents. So the inspections consist of both a document review, and these are all of the disclosures that we're to be getting from the seller. And that's covered in another video that you can click on the link below, as well as the physical inspection. So these are all of the inspections that we're actually doing on the home. So this is the home, pest, roof, HVAC, and sewer, right, that we typically recommend. And so that includes all of that. Typically the standard contract timeline is 17 days. I have been able to secure inspections and reports for about 90 to 95% of my contracts within 10 days. And so that's typically what we write in. Same thing as I mentioned with the escrow. We put forward to the best of our knowledge what we're estimating to operate it within. Sometimes there's a little bit of delay, but again, it's the job of myself and my team to proactively communicate with the listing agents to coordinate any potential delays and get ahead of that. That's the inspections. The appraisal, we have not as much control over when that gets set. The lender, once they get the assigned offer, will submit a request to what's called an appraisal management company. They'll put it out to the field, and an appraiser will kind of say, I'll take it. Sometimes that happens within a few days of that going out. Sometimes it takes a week for somebody to say, yep, I'll take it, and then another 5 to 7 days before we actually get that report. So that one we have a little bit less control over what that timeline looks like, but nevertheless, 14 days seems to be a fairly reasonable time frame for which to expect that to be completed. And finally, the loan. You might want to ask, well, if I'm pre-approved, why do I still have to go through another approval process? The pre-approval and key to pre is that they've looked at all of your documents. Inevitably, once we get you into contract, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that are related to specific property that have to be taken into consideration by the underwriter. And so they'll pull that information in, they'll pull your information in, they'll ask for any other information that they feel they need before they can say, yep, we can confidently fund this loan. That's why you go through that secondary approval process in that loan.